Hello, I'm Earl Gibbs, and welcome to Earl Gibbs Live with me. Well, definitely not a stranger anymore. Leader of the PFP MP Gumbs. How you doing,
I'm
MP?
okay. How are you?
All right.
Yeah.
You tired?
After last week, a little bit,
Uh,
yeah, but recovering slowly but surely.
well, that's good. That's good. So, everything went well with the budget, or you happy? You satisfied? Not too satisfied?
Well, the budget passed.
Mm.
I myself did not vote for it, but I did support two amendments that were brought forward regarding it, as well as some motions that were brought forward by my colleagues.
Mm.
But overall, it passed, and now it's to see how it goes with government spending and their monitoring of that spending,
Mm.
which is what they continuously said they would have to do. And yeah, any amendments that they may have to bring forward in the future.
Well, as leader of a new political party, this is what your third budget so far?
I think it's my fourth.
Fourth?
I feel like it is
Wow.
third
Oh,
or fourth. It might be
yeah.
third. Yeah, and it's the first one I haven't supported actually. So
Really?
yeah,
So they had to be really bad.
Well, I think I was not really satisfied with the responses given to the questions that I asked.
Mm.
I think that there are some. It is a balanced budget, as was stated by the Minister of Finance when he first came to
Mm.
Parliament. But there are some cuts in it that I'm curious about, and yeah, it remains to be seen if these cuts will help or hinder the functioning of government.
You're not satisfied. You don't like those cuts in those
No,
areas?
I think first of all, some cuts were made in places that was a little surprising to several of my colleagues. I think MP De Weaver highlighted as well, um, you know, the fact that you had school subsidies that experienced some cuts as well, but the schools themselves were not aware that they were going to be cut. But for me, I think one subject that I really focused in on was the garbage collection contracts, because that budget was also cut with a substantial amount. But we signed multi-year contract agreements with that extra amount in mind.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering, and the question I asked wasn't really answered, which was, is there an agreement to renegotiate the garbage contracts with the haulers? And if there is an agreement, can we then say that the prices of the garbage collection that were received in 2021, that it was inflated?
Yeah.
So that question wasn't really answered by the Minister of Rami. And then he was off island for the remainder of the budget handling, and the Minister of Finance, as his deputy, kind of took over. But yeah, so that was one of my areas of concern. Nevertheless, the budget passed, so now it's to see and monitor, indeed, as government has said, how their spending will go.
Now, I've said many times before on this program, it's time to start to pay for garbage collection. Every household should do that. You're a politician. I know there's no real political will in Zimbabwe to do that, but how do you feel about that?
I definitely agree. I think and I've tried to say this to persons in the community who approach me as well, where we're rather spoiled in the sense that the contributions do not necessarily provide the amount of revenue that a government needs to function. Curacao has a fee that is charged for garbage collection, for waste management essentially, that is put on top of I think it's on top of their Aqualectra bill. Someone told me that the fuel clause was supposed to be a sort of fee that would go towards waste management or stuff like that, and I don't recall ever hearing that. That's something I would have to do further research on. But I think society in general here needs to realize that the taxes that you pay off of your salary, those are just a small part of what it takes to actually run a country, because that is what we are saying that we're running. So I definitely think that some form of a waste management fee needs to come into play per household.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, MP, I didn't watch the budget meeting. I'm so disappointed now in the last few years that I just don't waste my time to. But I hear people make comments. My wife also makes comments. And it's like it's a big puppy show, especially for certain people in Parliament. It's the time when they get up and try to show off
Yeah.
unnecessarily. You notice that?
Yeah. I mean, I try to keep my remarks always very short and to the point. Even if I'm making political statements, I don't think I go beyond, maybe 20 minutes speaking, because I feel like you should be able to make your point in a concise manner.
Right.
But indeed, you have those persons where the budget is the first time they've spoken in the entirety of their career in Parliament. So, yeah, it's, I guess, the stage that they feel that they can shine on. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There was a short video circulating on WhatsApp. I couldn't figure out what that member of Parliament was saying.
Well, I think I know which video you're talking about, and I think the member was attempting to insult MP Peterson, or just kind of throw some shade at him. But I guess they felt away because of remarks that MP Peterson himself had made, which were 100% true. About persons approaching us to basically throw down government. And so, when you feel aangesproken, when you feel like spoken to, yeah, I guess that's what happened there. And they tried to make a bold statement, I think, but
wow.
I don't know if it landed.
Well, that's a new kind of English. But you all get a lot of heat, man. I mean, I've never seen a new political party under so much heat.
Yeah, I mean, no, I can imagine that we get a lot of heat because, it's when you decide to just tell the truth, even if it hurts, people start to look at you differently because that's what exists here. This kind of, you can't say that because that's political suicide, but for myself and for MP Peterson, I think most of PFP, we're like, I'd rather be honest. And if that is going to cost me votes, then, so be it, basically. Because we've had very comforting lies told to the people for the last, I would say, 4 decades. And it has to come to a point where you tell people the truth. It's like I tell people all the time, during COVID, everyone was being very optimistic in 2020, things are going to be back to normal soon. And everyone who asked me that same question, I basically told them, no, this is at least going to be the next 2 to 3 years of our life. So everybody should be prepared. And people were like, huh? Because it was such a conflicting message with what was coming out of government and what was coming out of every other politician's mouth.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, no, I believe in telling the truth, and this is not going away anytime soon. And I think if you level with people and you treat them like adults, because that's really what it is when you decide to tell the truth, people will appreciate that more, but some people won't, especially those who are accustomed to not telling the truth. So, yeah.
That's a tricky thing, because there were once 2 commissioners, and one was Rennie and one was Joe. Now, Joe was a very diplomatic guy, and he give it to you softly and nicely, and you say thank you. Rennie will give it to you a little harsher, but he's sincere and really mean it, and I prefer that way, how Rennie was. But people prefer the way how Joe was, because he gave it to you, the know you got, you walk away happy. And sometimes in St. Martin, that's what people want.
Yeah, I mean, but there's ways to deliver the truth. Giving the truth to people soft is not lying. My point is that you have people that have literally it's just not the reality that is being shared. And I think that we do a disservice to the people if we continue to kind of bubble them in this world where we ignore the reality of St. Martin, the reality of the wider Caribbean, and the reality of the world.
Your party was being accused of the one that's keeping the government in place by not going along with requests to call a vote of no confidence. But then a lot of people noticed that it wasn't just your party. In fact, all the members of the opposition really didn't want the government to change.
Yeah. I think, for us, we've been approached, we've been talked to about changing out this government, and I'm just like, no, do I think that they're doing the greatest job? Definitely not. But I also don't think that, putting myself and the party in a precarious position where we join break down a government and join a situation that is not it's not going to be any better because when you're a small party, you tend to get run over quite often. And I think you wanted to govern, so now show that you can. And I prefer to let the people be the judge as to whether or not they manage to govern properly at the next election. But as for the rest of opposition, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really spoken to any of them about if they've been approached or anything like that. But I think not downside, but the counter to that is that you then have a government that is essentially saying that they've been the most stable government. This gonna last the whole 4 years. And I'll repeat something I said when I was on the radio a couple weeks ago, and I said you could be stable, yeah, but you could also be stable in an ICU. But you're still in a hospital.
Yeah, right.
At the end of the day, So stability it's a word, but there's levels to it as well. So I think that that's something important for the people to keep in mind as they evaluate how this government has gone.
You've gone through 3 years now and 3 years and 2 months. What has been your biggest surprise?
I wouldn't say that I've been surprised.
Nothing surprised you?
I think
significantly?
I think the willful. I don't know if it's willful ignorance, but there have been things that I've heard, whether said when the cameras are on, when the cameras are off, that really leave me scratching my head, and that's why I stress a lot on getting our people ready from a global perspective. There have been a lot of things stated, whether it comes to international aid or even, the idea of independence, etc. And I just really scratch my head like, I don't think you guys have really thought this through in its entirety. And I think that the people as well should, be encouraged to do their own research and to actually learn how these things actually function. Don't take, not even my word for it, or any of my colleagues or anyone else in the government's word for it, and really go and see, how does this thing actually work, on the wider scale. And I think then, they'll be able to make informed decisions then, or just form their own educated opinion.
There's a saying that Caribbean people, most of the times, form opinions based on their leaders. In other words, they expect those that are in political leadership to guide them to whatever.
I think that's especially true of here. When I look at our counterparts throughout the region, there's a deeper involvement, politically speaking, not just locally, but also internationally, from populations of the other islands. If I talk to, I engage a lot on social media with persons from Barbados or from Dominica, etc. And just the general knowledge that they have as just regular people of the wider world and how things work, it's far beyond what I have encountered here locally. The persons that I political involvement here usually rotates around election time. People maybe do not watch the meetings. I've been told that directly. Persons are like, I really can't, tune in because it's just not, they can't sit through the meetings. So, and I'm like, well, I get it. But generally, I think, and again, I go back to world readiness, there's a lack of that here unless you have been a young professional that has maybe come back recently from abroad, and sometimes even then. Because you have a lot of people as well who go abroad and stay within a little bubble and do not ever really experience being abroad. So that's also the something that I've seen a lot here.
Yeah, and the thing is that we don't read a lot, and we expect to get our information from the media. And what I've noticed lately, people are saying to me, well, you have a news show. I said, no, it's not a news show. This is just a talk show. Mm-hmm. It seemed like something is lacking.
Yeah.
And so they get in the news from a talk show. I think that's kind of crazy because I'm not covering the news per se.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm hearing all the time now. And it's unfortunate. I think social media has changed a lot in St. Martin.
It has. It has. And I think, the fact that we really lack I want to say like independent investigative media outlets, you know, sometimes I will listen to press briefing and be like, you know, how is nobody challenging that? Even just you know, general coverage. And I mean, we do it as well, you know, we'll write a press release, send it to the media outlets, and it will be posted, you know, word for word. But in other countries, what you see is, you know, maybe you'll get some questions. They'll ask you like, you know, well, what about delve a little deeper into your own press release? And I think that, you know, that we lack that here. And I really do encourage, you know, persons who are interested in, you know, media and journalism to actually, these things are a study for a reason, you know. And I think that social media allows anybody to kind of pick up a mic and start a podcast and think that they're the be all end all on a topic.
Yeah.
Or, you know, open up a blog. It's not that expensive to host on WordPress and just call yourself a journalist, but, you know, you're not. And I think the unfortunate reality too is that because of the lack, I think government as well allows people inside press briefing that in any other country would not be allowed inside press briefing.
But I think what has happened is that, and I spoke about this recently on my radio program in Hot 99.9 FM. In 1980, I came back to St. Martin just for 1 year, and I worked at PGD2 with Elder Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
We did an incredible job. We used to go out and look for the news. Today now they sit and wait for a news release to come, and then that's the news for them. Another thing is, and this is not putting down anyone right now, is that you look at the news briefing from the Council of Ministers, and you can't find a St. Martin there, unfortunately. Now, these people, they enjoy brown nosing, and they will make sure that they are in good standings with the government. So therefore, the government is happy. Now, if Oral Gibbs comes and start making questions, all of a sudden, oh, he don't like me, he doing this and that.
Yeah.
It's the politicians who like it like that.
Yeah,
they want it like that. So it's good for them in a way.
I think that, and that's also part of the problem where, you know, and I know that there are politicians who feed questions to some of the reporters, quote unquote, at the press briefing as well. But I think, you know, that is a large part of the issue. I have never, you know, told anyone to go easy on me with questions or so. Like, for example, when I go to Laser 101 or so, everyone is like, you know, Super Kid was really tough on you, but you guys are friends. And I'm like, yeah, but he is, you know, a radio host first. And if he wants to ask questions that are pressure questions, he can ask them to anybody, whether it's me or one of my colleagues or so. The expectation of we are friends should not, you know, mean that you go easy on me for your job, basically. And I think that here we have issues compartmentalizing the personal versus the professional. And if you're not good with me professionally, then all of a sudden you can't be good with me personally.
Right.
But I think, you know, you have to find that balance where I could be very good with people personally and professionally not so much, and vice versa. But, you know, people have to do their job, and it shouldn't be that ministers or any politician is like, oh, but I thought so-and-so was cool with me.
Well, anyway, in case you've just joined us, I'm Oral Gibbs. This is Oral Gibbs Live, and we're in Hot 99.9 FM radio station, YouTube, Facebook, and TV Carib. My guest is MP Gumbs. MP Gumbs is leader of the PFP political party. This is their first term in Parliament, and I'm sure you're going to be contesting the next parliamentary election that is scheduled for a month from now.
Scheduled for February 2024.
I just pulling your leg.
It feels like it sometimes. It feels like it might be next month. That's what everybody has been kind of wondering because of how it's been ramped up a bit, you know, by the other parties. So yeah.
All right. So you know, when you look at St. Martin today, I noticed for the first time in my lifetime, I hear almost every politician now acknowledging poverty in St. Martin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's been funny for me as well because I see a lot of the pre-campaigning that has been going on also kind of echoing the Party for Progress's own manifesto from the 2019-2020 campaign in the sense of discussing improving the quality of life for people on St. Martin, addressing poverty, even establishing the road fund, you know, made it into this budget debate. One all of which are things that, we've also kind of put together as our grand vision for Simat. And I think that they're acknowledging it, but, it goes beyond minimum wage. It goes beyond, it's really cost of living, the increases, because everywhere is struggling with that. And I think, that too is something you have to be honest with people about. And maybe look to how you can curb that here locally for yourself. I know in Barbados they're making frantic efforts to lower the cost of living so that people can stretch their dollar a bit further. But even just this morning, in the mornings I listen to just the headline news alerts from around the world, and in Germany you are now about to have a serious strike, because you have transportation workers who are asking for a pay rise to combat the rising cost of living in Germany. Now, transportation workers, railway, etc., are some of the best paid people in Europe on a whole. So if you think about, you've never really heard them kind of ask for pay increases to address the cost of living that is rising to a point where they cannot handle it. And if you look at the price comparisons, it's still relatively acceptable up there as compared to here. So I think poverty is it's so much more than just a lot of people say, well, hike up the minimum wage. You can do that, and I do commend the Minister of VSR for getting that done. It's most substantial increase in years, but it's not something that can go up rapidly either. But there are other ways as well, and I think we also have to look at the types of jobs that are here.
Other ways, what do you mean?
Addressing the cost of living, addressing, the everybody talks a lot about agriculture, but we very rarely hear about locally pushed efforts to make it so that, farmers themselves here are respected and they're given a way to commercialize their produce that does not rely on them just selling it on the side of the road, or having people come to their farm. I think about the Friendside's egg center, the egg commercial center. Certain initiatives like that could go a long way. And I think, too, the types of jobs and the work that is available. A big topic during the budget debate was the SARE report on my request for research on the lottery booths, for example, and the fact that they're predominantly placed in low-income neighborhoods. There are countless studies that show that lotteries and gambling in general is a big creator of poverty, and it keeps poverty sustained because you tap into that part of people's brain that is saying, as long as I play one more dollar, I could win. The argument has been from some of my colleagues that, the lottery booths provide jobs. But what kind of jobs? Not every job is a job you want in your country, because it is importing poverty almost, in a sense, because it's not like these persons are making that much more above minimum wage. Often they may have another job as well. So you're creating this cycle where people are doing what are traditionally low-income menial jobs, and then we're expecting them to haul themselves out of poverty.
But what would you say if, I go to Las Vegas often. I don't gamble. The casinos are all around.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't support gambling. And I've been very vocal against it. But don't you think that maybe politically politicians are going too strong after the easiest target, which are lottery booths and casinos, while it's a much more deeper rooted problem in the society that needs to be tackled, that probably we're not aware of or don't want to address?
I think that if it was the easy target, they would have gone after it already. And if I have to be honest, until I had requested the SARE research, I had not really heard many of my colleagues talk about the issues of the lottery booths. And a couple now have kind of piggybacked on it, which I view as support, so I'll take it. But I think that people, like I said, if it was the easy target, I think that it would have been tackled already. Oh. And I think we need to think about why has it never been tackled before.
But it's what's created by politicians.
Yeah.
That's a problem that was created by politicians.
Created and sustained and exacerbated by politicians. And so for me, I feel like, that is one element of it, because if you think about the fact that while I was doing the research to request this year to do this insight into the lottery booths, for example, I made it a point to drive through Front Street on my way home every night around a certain time. Let's say 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Now, we have cries in the community about seniors and their pension. Every night at that time, there were 2 cars specifically that I recognized because I'm good with plate numbers. And they every night let off the same 4 seniors to go inside Coliseum to gamble. But at the same time, their pension does not stretch.
Right.
I'm not saying every senior does this, but I think we all know, 1 or 2 that is the avenue that they go to, whether it's to try win it big to continue to stretch their pension or otherwise. So I think, that those are the societal issues that you have to tackle. Gambling and gambling addiction is a societal problem that sustains poverty. And I think, had it been easy, it would have been done, like I say again. But clearly it wasn't easy for whatever reasons. But for me, it's pretty easy.
The reason why I say that many of the problems we are experiencing today on St. Martin is the result of politicians. I can give you a whole laundry list of the problems we have today. And now, how do we find a solution to these problems? Mention the casinos, mention the standalone casinos all over St. Martin. There was a time, if you wanted a casino license, it had to be in a hotel. It had to be a hotel of more, 200 rooms, 200 rooms. Then all of a sudden, they spread out all over the Dutch side of the island. Go to the French side, they're not there. Go to the French side, you're not seeing a bunch of fast food, all kind of. No, we don't realize what we're doing. We want to fix a problem, but we don't want to fix a problem to help our own people. And I find that to be unfortunate because poverty is increasing. At the same time, driving here this morning with my wife, we see a lot of old people just sitting by the roadside talking, and other people are going to work. It's like, how come these outsiders can find work and our people can't find work? And what is it that we are doing as a people? So I don't want to put all the blame on politicians, but I got to say a lot of the problems in St. Martin today, and I've been around a long time, are problems created by politicians. And that's why sometimes, and I'm not blaming you, you just happen to be a politician too. I'm just saying in general, so we need to find people genuinely concerned and really going to fix this problem.
Yeah. And I agree. Right now we are reaping the results of, decisions made, like I said, decades ago. It may have seemed like a good idea at the time. Like many things may seem like a good idea at the time, but as our population grew and as our society changed, nobody said, well, it's time to maybe hit the pause button. And I think that's also something that I said during the budget debate last week. The Minister of Teat presented a plan to kind of revitalize Phillipsburg, but also to improve the parking situation. The Minister of Rami as well. And I think they mentioned 3 to 4 multi-level parking garages to alleviate the parking issues. Now, that's fine. But my further question was, have you considered as well maybe a stop on importing cars? Maybe actually looking at creating a public transportation system. Because what we have is not a public transportation system. We have private bus licenses that can operate on the roads with the permission of government. You understand? So for me, I think that even as we look to fix or reverse as much as possible the decisions taken in the past, what are we doing to actually give ourselves time to implement those changes? They presented a spatial development plan just a month or so ago, and it's great. Talks about hillside policy, protection of hillsides, etc. Okay, but in the time that you were writing that plan, you issued permits where persons are cutting into the hills. So at some point in time, we have to say, well, okay, let's just hit pause. And it's possible. Anguilla did it. 2005, I believe. They put a 24-month stop on large commercial developments. And I think that was really, and they literally said it is to assess our spatial development plan. Because you can't be assessing the plan or even writing the plan and still giving permits to cut into the hillside. You understand? So I think that too is kind of lost in the sauce with this government, where they maybe have good intentions, but the follow through is not there in the way that it should be.
Well, it's get rich quick or die. You only have a political life of 4 years.
Yeah.
So you want to get rich quick, and
I guess.
So in fact, my good friend Grumika Wilson stole my brown bag. I used to have a show many years ago, and I had this brown bag called Home Alone.
Yeah.
Home Alone, I'd come pull out the little brown bag and show it. Now he took it and he's gone with it. It's okay, Grumika. So. But I think, being a politician is not a bad thing. But unfortunately, today in St. Martin, it has gotten such a bad name that good people don't want to go into politics.
100% agree and understand. Yeah. And we see that when, even now, as we're trying to, recruit potential candidates for the next election, like the people that should run do not want to. It is not a fear, I would say, but they're like, I can't be in that mess. They say, because and some people have told me, I don't know how you have the patience for it, because I would be throwing stuff every day. I said, well, I feel like that sometimes, but you got to be able to keep it, keep it under wraps. Nah, but it is unfortunate that, it has become such a toxic environment that indeed people do not want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But, I whenever people say that, you may not want to engage in politics, but politics is going to engage with you no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, there are elections for a reason. The decisions that impact your everyday life are being made by people that, if you don't vote, not you, but your peers are elected.
Yeah.
And I think, that's why I always tell people, like, I know it's exhausting, but if you just let it happen, then the persons that should not be in power are going to be in power. So people need to begin, engaging more often with their political environment.
You'll be governed by your inferiors.
Yeah, essentially.
You have a person by the name of MP Ludmila De Weaver. Is she joining your party?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she announced a couple of weeks ago, after IPCO, that she would be joining. It's something we've been discussing with her, for a while. And I think even when she was a minister, a lot of people forget that we had publicly supported her economic reform plan.
Oh, that was a great plan.
Because a lot of it was what we ourselves had written and thought about as potential, like, the slow decrease and removal of profit tax, for example, tax reform in general, So those are things that we kind of identified in her that, aligned. And we were like, well, we'll see how it develops. Opportunity went knocking, so yeah.
It was ambitious. Very good plan.
Yeah.
But I think it also hurt her politically within her coalition.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
Because that's not what they wanted.
Yeah. I definitely think that it probably did hurt her a bit within coalition while she was there. Yeah.
So you have any other persons that are gonna join you that you want to share for the first time in Oracle's life?
No, not right now. At this moment, no. But I'm happy with the group that we've put together, and as I said, there are still persons that we would like to see if they are interested in putting themselves forward. And I think everybody should be kind of making that call for persons that have St. Martin at heart, that have integrity as one of their top priorities. To know that there is an option for them out there if they've ever been interested in going into politics, because I think that too is part of the fear. Like, people are like, where do I go? But it's like I said, it's really, for me, this election is almost like a do or die. I think it is a pivotal point in St. Martin's history, and we will definitely, what happens next election will set the course for the next 4, 8, 12 years, I think, because, we're at a point now where, like I said, the decisions of the last 4 decades are catching up to us. And now is the time to make those difficult, drastic left turns to be able to avoid whatever is coming up because of those decisions. Yeah.
In case you've just joined us, I'm Oral Gibbs. I'm speaking with the leader of the PFP party, MP Gumbs. When we come back, we'll continue speaking with her right here on Oral Gibbs Live.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
If you'd like to advertise on Hot 99.9 FM radio, give us a call, 520-6070. That's 520-6070, Hot 99.9 FM radio station. And my guest on Oral Gibbs Live is leader of the PFP party, MP Gumbs, and we're here speaking with her on Oral Gibbs Live on Hot 99.9 FM radio, Facebook, YouTube, and TV Caribbean. It's good to have you here with us, speaking with the MP. The airport issue is still there. I had the CEO from the airport, and he said by this end of 2023, things will be a lot better. Yeah, right. How you feel about the whole affair? Because it has taken so long, and everyone is blaming everyone, and everyone is blaming the government and the CEO and everything else.
I think, and this is not to defend the CEO or so, but I think he inherited a very subpar situation at the airport. He became CEO in January 2019. But I think the most critical thing for people to remember, and it goes back to what you said, that a lot of the issues have been caused by politicians. The delay tactics of some of those now sitting in government while they were in parliament regarding the airport. The airport financing was signed off in October 2021? So construction technically only started last year. So it may seem like it's taken a long time, but I think that's also because people have the misconception that construction on the airport started right after Irma.
No, it had
but it didn't.
3 years of
it had 3 years waiting because
politicians
politicians did not want the World Bank involved. They did not want the trust fund situation. If you think that, the NRPB itself was only established in 2018 to begin kicking off the projects, etc., and the disbursement of the trust fund. And a lot of that comes from the delays of politicians, many of whom are sitting in government now as ministers, but when they were in parliament, opposed any financing deal for the airport at every opportunity, including airport, itself, whether it was interim management at the time, holding board management at the time. You had persons actively trying to sabotage, and I will say it plain, actively trying to sabotage the financing options that were there. When I looked at some of the alternative financing options, they would have cost the country so much more in the long run.
Much higher interest rates.
Much higher debt ceiling requirements. Like, it was wild to me. And I'm not a finance expert. So if I can look at it and see, we got the best deal that we would have gotten, and others cannot, then it makes me wonder what were the ulterior motives for opposing, the financing that is there now. And I think that is why a lot of people say, you've been soft on the airport. I said, the airport's only been under construction for the last year and change. It has not been under construction since 2017. The financing was signed off October 2021. If you're building a house and you get your financing October 2021 and to now, you're now getting to a point where you're putting up walls and stuff, that's not your fault. And then, in the time of the delays, the world kept turning. So inflation started going up. We are coming out of a global pandemic. An example I give, and he gonna kill me because I'm going to say it again. My dad, he has like a solar hat, for hot water. When he built his house, the house he lives in now, the solar hat, the panel plus the tank was $1,400 on the front side. The other day, he remember was complaining they had no hot water. So he went check, the tank had a leak. So he went to the same place, checked for the tank. The tank alone was $1,500 now. That is how the world has changed in the time, of from since Irma to now. You cannot act as though what was a cost 3 years ago, pre-COVID, is going to be the cost now. And why did this tank cost that much now? Because shipping costs have quadrupled since 2020. Mm-hmm. So all of this is things that we have to keep in mind when we look at the airport. The jet bridges came in. I'm so thankful for that. But, there are other factors behind why it took so long. And this is why I tell people, be more aware of what is happening in the world, that prices are going up. Shipping is a disaster in terms of timing, in terms of cost. All of these things play a factor.
Yeah, but I think MP, and I have to blame the CEO here. Mm-hmm. Good friend of mine, but I have to blame him. And why I blame him? He kept his mouth shut. He selectively went other places. I've been inviting him for months and over a year, mm-hmm. and he would give me a run around until I had another MP. And I said, with that MP, it looks like he's joining up with the Dutch to destroy St. Martin, because they're saying that KLM, XYZ, and the Dutch government, and the local government was forced to take him back. So I made those statements, and I stand by it. And then he calls me. Oh, man. I said, but I got to make a statement. I don't know what's going on. This is what people are saying. Mm-hmm. You want to come, you don't want to come on the show. Then he came on the show. Yeah. And I said to him, okay, now, this is what I said. You correct it. Yeah. He never did. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to say to you, MP, is that what I say behind your back, I can say in front of your face. Yeah. And I stand by what I say. I blame the MP, I blame the CEO of the airport for not informing the population of St. Martin.
And I have told him that as well.
And directly. You know what he said to me when I told him that? Yeah, but G-Money did something and 20,000 people saw it. I said, well, no, I didn't see it, and a lot of St. Martin people didn't see it. Yeah. I think social media have us all screwed up, really. Yeah. Especially politicians and government-owned companies. They feel, okay, you see 20,000. No, you're wrong. Yeah. It's not like that. Yeah. That's not the reality. Yeah. And it's unfortunate.
No, I agree. And I've told him this directly as well, that you have to communicate. In all ways, you have to, whether it's you go on the radio, you put something in the paper, you put up flyers somewhere. Yeah. However, you have to reach people, you have to reach them. But I think too often people think that, well, if they just do the work, no, people will forever question, because they need to know, well, what is going on. And that's also something that we've been spoiled by with social media, where, you're constantly told what is going on.
But not in the right way.
Because
I had MP Westcott here.
Yeah.
And she said she saw one of those videos. She was confused.
Yeah, they showed it in Parliament. And I said, well, maybe not the way I would have chosen to communicate this. Old-fashioned press releases still go a very long way. Yeah. But it's, again, you have to keep people updated. And you have to keep people informed. But we're not. Overall, and I think too the notion of people getting the majority of their news from social media, yes, some people might, but the majority still prefer to pick up a Herald or just, pick up something tangible that they could touch, go through, and then see what is happening in the country that way.
But the grassroots people are still, the grassroots people are my people. You can do all you want, say all you want. Yeah. If you go everywhere else and you don't come in, you're going to miss a big chunk of the people of St. Martin who, number one, they know I'm sincere. They trust what I say and what is said on this program. Mm-hmm. And I think that's more important to me. Mm-hmm. I was walking in the supermarket the other day, the guy stopped me and said, look, Earl, I have your Facebook page. When I see something there, then I know it's true. Mm-hmm. I felt real good because that's showing you people have confidence in what you do, what you believe in. Yeah. Unfortunately, in St. Martin, social media again, they run behind all these people and they miss the point. Yeah. And I want to move over to GEBE. Mm-hmm. GEBE is a very, very vital company to St. Martin. it's over a year now since that ransom attack. It seems like there's such silence.
Yeah. No, there is. And I think, during the budget debate, it was kind of a question like, well, who's going to tackle that? And I think MP De Weaver did a good job of that, asking, there's a lot of talk about concessions in the budget. And she's like, how are you going to pay? Companies cannot pay concessions if they're not making money. And that is a big concern with regards to GB. For me, I'll be honest with you. I've asked questions in writing, in meetings. You get comforting statements that everything is being worked on, and that they're close to recovery. But at the same time, I have only gotten my water bill for the last 4 months. I haven't seen an electricity bill since March last year. And many other people are like that. I was walking to the building one day. There were two ladies in front of me, and they were discussing GB. And one of them basically said that all she been getting is her water bill. So she's been paying that, and plus whatever extra she can to cover what may be, the electricity bill. And this is again where I'm like, just tell people the truth. If everything was lost, because there's been like half statements, from since the time of the hack, some of the data was lost. I don't think that's true. I think all of it was gone. I think that it's true that, the last backup was from a year prior to the hack, which is unbelievable to me. As somebody who likes technology and who, I have like 3-4 backups of everything everywhere. And so if I could do that for myself,
I'm smart because I'm the same way.
If I could do that for myself, and you assume that a company does it also, but indeed it has been silent. And it's tiring almost to ask questions and not really get a straightforward answer. I don't know. I think of it as maybe just a political tactic I don't want to take that blame, because let's face it, at the beginning, after the hack, you had the Minister of Rami and the Minister of Finance were the ones who had met with GB twice. And then all of a sudden, the Minister of Rami came to answer a question that I had requested about GB. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh no, the Prime Minister is the one who have to come and answer questions. Okay. So it was just very strange to me how government handled it. And to date now, it's just things are being worked on.
You know that problem should have never happened, right? Because I was on the GB board for 2 years. That was the term that I had. And my other colleagues on the supervisory board, we identified that a weakness informed management. Management set out to correct the problem. I know that I hired one person, a local person from St. Martin living in the US. And then my term was up, along with the other board members, to tell us thank you for your term, and we left. And nothing happened after that. What happened at GB, they started to fight with the management that was left there, that management that was installed by the board that I was on. The same politicians described them as dummies and couldn't do the job, etc. But then those same politicians was running behind them, getting them to cut deals, right, for their friends and their companies. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It got to stop.
Yeah.
The politicians are digging their hand into GB, digging their hand into every government-owned company and messing up the whole operation.
Yeah. And I agree that what happened at GB should not have happened. If you have your checks and balances in place and you have a plan to move forward and you've done the necessary internal audits on every department, it definitely should not have happened. And this is also a question that I've asked, and again, to give you an idea of the of vague responses. In the budget debate, I asked, they talked a lot about the digitization project, digitizing and automating, like requesting appointments, permits, etc. So I asked, with all of this digitization, what has government taken into consideration regarding cybersecurity? What steps? Because I don't see it in the budget. I don't see cybersecurity insurance or anything like that taken up in the budget, or a company that has been contracted to do cybersecurity for government.
They're probably not aware of all that.
And the answer is it remains a high priority for government, and we are, consulting with stakeholders and seeing the best practice. So I just read it and I said, okay, I'll just let it go. Because if not, I'll be requesting clarification for the next 5 budget rounds, So for me, I say that's the answer they want to go with. it remains to be seen if they have actually taken it up as a high priority.
Another thing, MP, is, Telem.
Mm.
Telem is also an important company to St. Martin. We have Telem fiber here at the studio. It used to be good, now it's getting worse, but I'm not going to hit them on that. I live in Bel Air,
Mm-hmm.
and almost every day we see the chat of all the people living there. Most of the people are pretty well off people, crying for help. They're complaining, the internet, this and that, and all over. I don't want to blame management. I understand some of the things, but you're a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the importance of TLM as the company to St. Martin?
Of course I do. My home internet provider is Flow because I used to work for them. But I think that here too we have a issue where people don't really realize.
Can you hold that thought a while?
Yeah.
Hold that thought a while. TLM's been blocking Flow.
Blocking Flow in what sense?
In cooperation, there was a point where they had to put fiber in Simpson Bay. Okay. And there was a whole complaint to me by someone in Flow of what TLM did to them. So that's blocking. Look, I'm not here defending anyone, but I think people need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
When the person explained to me what TLM did to them, I said, wow. And you know what the guy said to me from Flow? He said, look, we are a much bigger company. We can really crush TLM if we have to. All right.
Yeah.
Am I wrong or right in that?
Yeah, well, as a former employee, I won't speak on scenarios where I have been involved with Telem issues. But I think.
But I'm not putting on Telem.
No,
give you the facts. Huh?
Yeah. No, but I think that, for me, for example, the fiber to the home project seemed a bit stalled. But again, I have to revert back, and I know you didn't watch the meeting, but I'll send you the clip of MP De Weaver questioning the government-owned companies and their viability, because all of them, except for Waynear, essentially have been identified as loss-making. So I think that's something very important to think about, as you have a government that is saying that they're going to collect concessions from companies that are not making profit.
While these companies make up 45% of the GDP of St. Martin.
Yeah. So basically, I think that Telem is stuck in a look. Investments in telecoms are expensive,
and it changes all the time.
All the time. At the same time, too, I know that the cost of bandwidth that comes into St. Martin off of the fiber optic cables, the undersea cables that we have that are landing in St. Martin or passing through, it's very expensive, and that's a large part of the issue.
That could have been reduced, by the way.
Yeah. A lot of people look at the friend side and but I said, but the friend side, I never try to compare, because at the end of the day, their internet is partially subsidized. You have Orange that owns the infrastructure, and then everybody can piggyback off of it.
And your Orange is huge.
Yeah. And that's fine, but they can afford that because it's the state of France that right. basically subsidizes that. So that's a moot point for us. On our side now, I do think that, there have been discussions in the past of having somebody own the infrastructure of what runs underground in terms of fiber, and then allowing Telem, Coral, Flow, whoever to piggyback off of it. And I think that conversation wants to have GB own it, because GB also has their own fiber in the ground running to the meters. And I think, instead of us having to dig up the road every minute and for somebody to put cable or blow fiber, do it once, let one run it, and then everybody piggyback off of it. That's how, I think it should actually be done. But, in terms of the bandwidth cost of what comes into St. Martin, it is pretty expensive, and that is passed on to us as consumers. When I think about what my friends in the States pay, what I was paying in Holland, and what my friends on the friend side pay, it is a big concern. And I think, Telem's fiber, I don't have it. It's not by me yet, which is why I thought it was a stalled project at first, because it was right up the road and I could see it. But
they ran out of money.
I heard. But again, remains to be seen. We've it's one of those scenarios where you ask questions again officially, the way that it should be. Not me per se, but I know MP Heiliger Martin has done that a couple times. But you don't really get the responses that allow you to kind of change your opinion from there's something strange going on.
There's some MPs who ask questions, they know all the details, they know why it happened.
Yeah.
So instead of asking the question, they should stand in Parliament then and say what the problem is. And that include MP Heiliger, by the way. But MP, we almost out of time, man. It's always a pleasure. I only have 1 minute, so I'm gonna give it all to you. What are you going to say in closing?
No, well, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be by. It's always a good conversation. And I would encourage everyone to, get involved, pay more attention. I know it's tiring sometimes, but politics is going to be in your life in some way, shape, or form. So you definitely need to make sure that, you get it before it gets you, so to speak.
Well, you can't avoid it. The problem is we need to get good people back into politics. I think that'll make things better, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. Thanks, MP. Much success.
Thank you.
And that's it for now. See you next time right here on the Oral Gibbs Live on Hot 99.9 FM radio in Simpson Bay, St. Martin. See you then.